Okay, so you made it. We are done with matrices, and we are in systems of nonlinear equations. And I always wondered why they put this section next, but after you've gone through the painful part of matrices, then something pretty simple and easy is kind of nice to have. So maybe that's why they did it. And this is really nothing more than using, in fact, in this particular lesson, they're pretty much just using substitution in order to solve these systems. So we'll start with example 1. And what I mean by nonlinear, it means I'm going to have exponents on my variables. So again, this is example 1. Okay, so there's my system. And what I would suggest doing is using substitution and just changing that to x equals y minus 4. And if you remember, wherever you see an x, you put a y minus 4 in its place. So we have a y minus 4 here, and that's squared, minus y minus 4 there, minus 3y equals 0. Okay, so really not a whole lot to it. And I'm doing it this way with solving for x equals y minus 4. The book solved it for y. And I'm doing it this way just to show you that it works both ways. And because I wasn't looking at what the book was doing and kind of went off on my own. So anyway, this right here, squared, using the FOIL method. This minus sign is going to make my y minus and my 4 its opposite. Okay, so I have y squared, so let's combine that and that and that. So it's negative 9, 10, 11, 12. And these two give me my 20. And hopefully we can factor that into two binomials. Two numbers multiplied together give me 20, added give me 12, and it's going to be a 10 and a 2, and negative. So y equals 10 and 2. So then what we've got to do is we've got to take these answers right here and plug those in my original equation to see what my y value is. So if y is 10 and 2, I substitute the 10 and the 2 back in the two original equations. And if I were substituting them in the original equations, I'd pick the simpler of the two. In this case, x minus y equals negative 4. So let's do that. X minus 10 equals negative 4. So x equals 6 when y is 10. So there's one solution. And then my other solution I got was a 2. So I'm going to substitute so x equals negative 2. I'm going to add x equals negative 2. So there are my two solutions. Now what I need to do is check to make sure it works, because this squared thing can do all kinds of weird things to it. I'm going to take my 6 and 10 and put it in this equation and see if it works, and it does. I'm going to take my negative 2 and 2 and put it in here. Negative 2 in here, and then my positive 2 here, and see if I get 0. And I do. So both of them check. Alright, so let's look at example 2. Okay, so first things first, we're going to try to get rid of our fraction by multiplying this entire top equation by y. And then we won't do anything to our bottom one. So again, I'm going to do this one different than the book does, so you have that example plus mine. Alright, I'm going to solve for y here. Okay, so that ends up being my second equation. So I'm going to take my first equation, and then my new second equation. Okay, so here's my first equation that I got by multiplying everything by y to get rid of the fraction. Put that here. Second equation, I just move this over to this side and put it here. Now I'm going to substitute 10 minus xy in for y. Okay, now you see the mistake that I've got here when I do that. I didn't get rid of my y, because I take this y equals 10x minus y. So now when I see a y, I put 10 minus xy in its place. When I see this y, I put a 10 minus xy in its place. So when I do that, I still have y's, because it looks like x times 10 minus xy plus x equals 6 times 10 minus xy. That doesn't get me anywhere, because when I substitute, I'm trying to get rid of one of the variables. I didn't. I still have an x and a y and an x and a y in here. So that's just to let you know that you make a mistake with that and it's not going to get you anywhere, okay? So I tried doing something that I thought was going to just be another option, and I ran into a brick wall there. So what I have to do is find or set this equal to x, because I tried setting it equal to y and it didn't work. So my only other option is to set it equal to x. And I divide by y, get rid of that, and now I have an x on this side and only a y on that side. Alright, so I'm going to draw or put this first one up here again. Now I could have, if I was a good teacher, I could have erased that whole part of the video where I made that mistake and not even have let you know, but I decided to leave my error in there simply because you might run into the same thing and you're like, okay, how the heck do I do this, because my variables didn't go away. Yeah, I'm down to one equation now, but I still have an x and a y. If you run into that, then find, instead of like I did the first time, finding y equals, then you go and find x equals and see if that helps. Yes, it does. I only have one variable over here now, and my x is here. So now I can substitute that in for my x. Times y plus my x, or what I guess that's not an x, that's a y, isn't it? There. Plus 10 equals 6y. Okay, so this y and this y will cancel. So I have 10 minus y plus 10 minus y over y equals 6y. Okay, so you're ready to multiply the entire kit and caboodle by y in order to get rid of that. Alright, so let's move stuff up and let's do that. So I have 10y minus y squared plus 10 minus y equals 6y squared. Okay, so let's move all of this to this side. So 0 equals, add y squared to both sides, that's 7y squared. We're going to take our 10y minus y is 9y and move it over here, so then it becomes minus 9y. And then we have a plus 10, move it over, it becomes minus 10. Alright, so now we're at a place where we can factor. So remember this, where you take 7 times negative 10 and get negative 70, and then you're finding so you took 7 and the negative 10, negative 70, looking for two numbers multiplied together that are going to give me negative 70, but added together give me a negative 9, which in this case is going to be 14 and 5. So minus 14 plus 5 minus 10. And if you remember, if you have, like in this case, a negative 14 and a positive 5, because adding those together give you a negative 9, multiply give you a negative 70, you always put the negative first. Okay, I can go into y, but it's just so much easier just to do it that way. It just makes your grouping easier. So I'm going to group these two, and it wouldn't matter if you put the 5 in front of the 14, but I guarantee it just makes things simpler. It just makes it so you have less opportunities for mistakes, because this then would be a negative, and then you have to change the signs of everything in the parentheses. Okay, so that gives me 7y plus 5 and y minus 2 equals 0. Therefore, y equals negative 5/7 and y equals 2. Okay, so once you get those for your y values, you go up to the original problem. Doesn't matter which one, and again, I would always pick the simpler one. So you go clear back to the beginning, and I would use this one right here and plug my 2 in and see if that to find my x value, and then plug my negative 5/7 in to see what my x value is based on negative 5/7, and then that gives you your answer. Alright, so I am going to make one more video rather than try to make this go 20 minutes to do the next couple of examples. So 7.6b will be following.